Hi, Cassie.
Hey,
Welcome. I'm so excited you're here.
thanks for having me.
I mean, of course, anytime. So Cassie, you and I know each other because you're one of my besties. Is
Yes,
this an accurate statement?
this is a fact. Yeah,
Yes,
this
yes.
is a
Love that for
fact.
us. Lucky
Mhm.
you. Kidding. But our listeners don't know who you are. So can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Cassie Day. I am a mom to three super awesome kids. I am a real estate agent working in the West Plains area. And yeah, I teach yoga. I haven't in a while, but would like to get back into it because, COVID.
Yeah.
Um, I think those are the main details.
Okay. And you forgot to say you're a shining star.
I am a shining
You are a
star.
shining star.
I was gonna say something else, but then I
Oh,
was like, it's not G-rated, so then I didn't.
okay. Okay. I love that for you. Okay. So I just want to start with something fun. So I know about you that you love your job, you love real estate, you love
Mhm.
true crime,
I do.
and you also have a podcast,
I do have a
right?
podcast.
And
Yes.
so first of all, tell us about your podcast. And second of all, so these are two questions in one. Okay. Tell us about your podcast. And then tell me all about how you decided to do season two, which is all about true crime and real estate. It's like a sandwich, they're mushed together. Tell me about that.
It's all the best things.
I know.
So my one of my other besties, who
Hmm.
is one
Hmm.
of our neighbors,
Hmm.
is my real estate broker. So that means she's like the one who oversees our whole office.
Okay.
And her, I, and then our friend Allie were chatting, and Allie was like, "You guys, we should do a podcast
Hmm.
because there's just no good real estate podcasts that we've
Oh,
found that are
yeah.
just relatable." And so we had this crazy idea. And then we were like, well, let's just do it. So it's called Agents Unfiltered.
Okay.
And our first season is just kind of like talking about different real estate related things, introducing ourselves. And our goal was to just have information available to real estate agents that's helpful. And also, if you're not a real estate agent, you can listen and it's interesting. But
Yeah,
we
because
were,
I do listen. And
and
I
you are a
actually
real
have
estate
learned quite a
agent.
bit. So there you
Yes.
go.
See, you don't have to be a real estate agent to listen.
No.
But then we were kind of running into this problem of running out of content
Mm,
because, it's like with real estate, it's hard to find stuff to talk about on a podcast and not feel like you're repeating yourself.
mhm.
And so we were just kind of brainstorming, how can we stand out? What's something that's not out there right now? We really want to talk about real estate. And so Danielle had this idea of every week we talk about a different real estate related court case and dive into the ins and outs, how it ended. And so, because we're never going to run out of content, it's
No,
super interesting.
super
There is
interesting.
not another real estate podcast that we found that is covering real estate cases. And it's just super fun. So
Yeah.
that is season two. There's some really interesting episodes. So you should definitely check it out. Agents Unfiltered.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So that's, I just felt like I love that about you, that like you're just being your authentic self with making something fun out of the things that you love. So
Yeah.
look at you go. Okay. Cassandra.
Yes.
Oh, should I call you Cassie or
You
Cassandra?
can call me whatever you want, my
I
lady.
call you Cassandra in real
That's my
life.
fancy name.
Yeah. Okay.
So I like it.
Okay, fabulous. So I have just loved watching you. We've known each other for 8 years now.
Yes.
And I have loved just watching you grow as a human, as a parent, as a friend in so many ways. And from my perspective, I feel like you are like living your best life. And of course, there's always hard in that, but I just feel like you are really coming into who you truly are. And I love that. So with that, we're going to go back a little bit
Okay. Love it.
because we are talking about growth and healing. And so you wouldn't be where you are today without some of the things that you've experienced. So can we go back to when you were first married and you had little Willow,
Yes.
and what was life like for you at that point?
Oh my gosh, it was so stressful. That is
Mhm.
like one of the harder seasons, I think, of my adult life because I did not intend to get pregnant so young. I
Mm,
got married at 18, which is very young.
yeah.
And I didn't want to have kids until I was like 25 plus,
Hmm.
but just, had some issues with my birth control. So I ended up being a mom at 20, which is
Surprise.
so young. I
Yeah.
cried. I cried when I
Yeah.
took the pregnancy test, and they were not happy tears.
Yeah. I get that.
Like, just
Yeah.
being real, I did not feel ready to be a mom. I did not feel like I had my life together,
Hmm.
but it was what it was. And so Willow was born when I was 20, and she was a tough baby.
Mm,
She cried a lot for the first 8 months. It was a lot of walking. She wanted to be held and bounced. So I just felt
hmm.
like I spent most nights walking the hallways of my little apartment, just bouncing her.
Mm,
And my husband at the time worked graveyards. And so most of it fell on me.
yeah.
And it was just exhausting. I remember thinking, I don't know if I'm going to survive this.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like that, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're kind of in the thick of it. You're new mama. At what point did you and your ex-husband, is that okay that I say that?
Yeah, you can say that. Yes.
Okay. At what point did you and your ex-husband decide, hey, I think we're going to be foster parents?
Oh my gosh. I don't even like, it's crazy to me that we thought, not that I have any regrets because I love it, but you just have no idea what you're getting yourself
Yeah.
into. But we
Yeah.
had so many people in our lives who were foster parents,
Hmm.
and I have, just some fertility issues. And so if we wanted to grow our family, that was the way that we could do it.
Okay.
And through having friends be foster parents, we got to meet these really cool kids and just were like wanting to give them a safe home. We felt like we had that to offer. I think Willow, when we got our license, Willow was almost 4.
Okay.
So by then, and she was the easiest kid once we got past her
That
screaming
baby. Yeah.
days. Once we
Yeah.
got her past the screaming days at about 8 months, she was happy and smart and bubbly and sweet. And so we were like, we want to grow our family. And this seems like a natural way to do it, where we're helping love other kiddos and,
Hmm.
potentially could end up with more forever kiddos.
Hmm.
It just felt like the right next step for us at the time. I don't think you ever realize how intensive it's going to be going
Yeah.
into it, but I'm
Yeah.
so glad that we did. I can't imagine,
Sure.
my family without my all of my kiddos.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said at one point, that not today, but to me,
Yes.
that, it was through your first few years of fostering that you realized maybe we don't have this all dialed in and
Yeah.
maybe there's things to be working on. Can you talk me let's talk about that. Tell me
Yeah.
more about that.
Yeah, I think that being a foster parent kind of, and being a parent in general, but there's something about being a foster parent that really puts a microscope on your childhood trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And so I I think that I thought up until that point that I was fine and that, I didn't really need any sort of counseling or anything because I had a child, we were foster parents, we had our lives together, so I thought. And there's
Mm-hmm.
something about raising kids from trauma and their stuff
Yeah.
that just really makes you realize how much you don't have it all together.
Yeah.
And I started to have, some memories popping up and
Mm.
some old things popping up. And it started to bring me to a place of, I'm not okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that I am doing well. And how do I parent these kids if I'm not okay? And
Yeah.
so that was what kind of got me started down that road.
So where did you start then?
So I started by looking for a counselor.
Okay.
And the first one that I met with was not a love connection. Um, I think that I even realized it wasn't a love connection. Our first counseling session, I just laid my whole background on the table for her. I told my
Uh-huh.
whole background story. stoically without feeling. And she was like, I don't really know why you're here. You
Oh,
seem to
geez.
have your life together. I don't really think that you need to be here. It seems like you're handling life great. And so I
Mm-hmm.
left feeling really proud and like, oh yeah, I've got this.
Mm-hmm.
And then very shortly after was like, I don't have this. And
Yeah.
so then I found a new counselor and she was like, oh, you're fully dissociated. Let's dig into that. Let's
Mm-hmm.
start talking through your past and working through what's going on. And that's when I started some EMDR work, which is incredibly amazing if you have your own trauma.
Yeah. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So
Just
I had
from your
never heard.
perspective. Yeah.
What?
Just from your perspective, like not as
Yeah.
a professional, but like as someone who has done it, tell me about how that's been for you.
Yeah, I had never heard of EMDR
Mm-hmm.
until the counselor mentioned it. Now I feel like I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
But the way that we carry trauma in our bodies, if we're triggered, it immediately sends us to fight, flight, or freeze, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like having panic attacks,
Mm.
and it was so affecting my daily life. And doing EMDR made it so that if I was triggered by something, if something came up, it didn't completely send me over the edge.
Sure.
It was
Yeah.
like still triggering, still hard, still
Mm-hmm.
needed to talk through the feelings, but I didn't feel like I wasn't in control. And I didn't feel like I was back in the same moment that also felt like that from my childhood. And
Okay.
so
Yeah.
it's really incredible.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Okay.
hard. Oh gosh, it's hard, but it's
Yeah.
so worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And how long did you do EMDR? Or are you still doing EMDR?
I haven't for a while. I
Okay.
did I did go back and do some more, maybe like a year or so ago when I had some new stuff come up.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I probably did it for a couple of years, like the EMDR side of it.
Okay. So you started with yourself. You
Yes.
started with, hey, I need to look at me first. So how can I move forward in that? And then what? What happens next?
Then I think once you start working on yourself, you have more of a grasp on parenting your kiddos from hard places
Mm-hmm.
and being able to function in life without feeling like you're constantly in survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
And, like even being able to sleep. That was a huge issue that I had of just not sleeping. And that affects
Mm-hmm.
your ability for all sorts of day to day life stuff. And
Yeah.
so it just helped my whole self so that I could show up for my kids well, so that I could handle their trauma popping up and
Yeah.
not feel like it was pushing me underwater.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So I also know, just because I know you, that
Yes.
you are a fan of TBRI.
Yes.
So
Yes.
can
Yes.
you tell me about when you first heard about that and how you started to implement that into your home?
Yeah, I heard about TBRI just through the foster parent world. I had gone to a conference because part of being a foster parent is getting, continued education. Is that
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You have to be doing, work and trainings. And so there was a TBRI conference and I went to it and just so many new perspectives that I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't thought of on how to parent these kiddos from hard places. It was super healing for me and learning about
Mm,
attachment styles and how
yeah.
that affects the way that we attach to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And just really like the biggest thing I think that I took from it and still hold to is not seeing behaviors as like my kiddo being naughty, but as a
Yeah.
need that needs to be met. So if they're
Totally.
acting out, it's not that they're a bad kid. It's not that they're just so terrible or, oh my gosh, they're just being so bad today. It's that they have an unmet need. And so it's like being an investigator and trying to get to the bottom of what is it that you're needing? Like, what is it that
Yeah.
what's making you feel unsafe? And when we can regard our kiddos like that, it's so much easier to handle the really hard moments because A,
Yeah.
we're looking at them from a place of compassion as
Mm-hmm.
opposed from a place of anger, and B, they're feeling seen and heard and are able to bounce back faster.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Can you think of a time where you're thankful that you had TBRI in your back pocket as a tool?
Oh my gosh, that's a tough question. Let me just quickly go through the files in my brains of all the. um, I think especially with my youngest who's got some sensory processing stuff. Um, he is just a wild, busy boy. And
Mm-hmm.
I think if I didn't have TBRI, I would have regarded him throughout his years of being younger as just this little troublemaker.
Yeah.
And he is the sweetest, kindest, most relational little love.
And so
And
funny.
I feel like I would have
Yeah.
lost this, like the sweet relationship that we have if
Mm-hmm.
I had regarded him as this naughty kid who was always getting into trouble. I think
Yeah.
it was like so helpful in me being able to see him for who he really was, past the behaviors, and him
Yeah.
just trying to feel safe and regulated.
Totally. What about with the school system? Do you feel like that you run into barriers with the school system with them understanding trauma?
I think with my youngest, we've had a really good run of really
Good.
incredible teachers
Mm-hmm.
who can, because if you take the time to get to know my youngest, his name is Sawyer. He is the
Mm-hmm.
funniest
So
little
funny.
He's the best. I shouldn't say little boy. He's turning 9 tomorrow, but he just will always be my little
I
baby.
know. Yeah.
He's so cute.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take the time to get to know him, he is like loyal for life. He
Mm-hmm.
is the sweetest little thing.
Mm-hmm.
And every teacher he's ever had has taken the time to build a relationship with him and
Mm.
can see him for who he is. And we have him established on an IEP. The
Okay.
one barrier that we ran into that was really frustrating was wanting to hold him back a grade after
Okay.
COVID. And the school was not helpful in that sense,
Mm.
which he's got support and we're doing well, but I think it would have been really beneficial for him. And that was a battle that I could not win.
Yeah. That's so
um,
hard.
yeah, with my oldest, um, it was a lot harder for her in like having the school understand, especially in elementary school,
Mm-hmm.
better in middle school for sure. Especially before we fully understood the way that her brain worked.
Yeah.
That she wasn't a bad kid. She just was having a hard time controlling her body. And
Yeah.
so you definitely have to become a master advocator for your kiddos when they
Yeah.
struggle.
I know. And I think that's one thing that none of us are really prepared for.
No.
Like, I think we're supposed to trust the school system. We're supposed to trust that whatever they know what's best. They're the professionals, but I think it's okay for us to be the professional about our kids' needs.
Yeah.
And it's okay for us to get a little bit feisty.
Well, and I am like, one thing that I've worked a lot on in my life is not being a people pleaser, not wanting to
Yeah.
always keep the waters calm around me and feeling like I'm responsible for keeping everybody calm and happy. And it's hard for me to step out of that and put on my
Yeah.
boss girl pants. And
Totally. Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
really pushes me out of my comfort zone, which of course I'm going to
Totally.
fight for my kids,
Yeah.
but it's tough.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so where did yoga come into play then? Where did was that part of your healing journey, or was that just something that you were like, this is my next adventure?
Yeah, so I was actually like a fitness instructor before I was a yoga instructor,
Okay.
and just found so much healing in moving my body, exercising, finding physical strength along with all of the other strength. And if you've met me, I am a very bubbly person. I have a
Hmm.
big personality. Um,
But that's
just
why we love you.
I'm a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Um, but I am a big personality and I'm a highly anxious person.
Hmm.
So I run really anxious and I am bouncy. And I am notoriously terrible for being still. And I especially don't like being in the quiet, being stuck with my thoughts.
Hmm.
Um, and so I always hated the idea of yoga. I thought it was just the worst. Like, who would want to just hold a pose in the quiet with like ethereal music playing? No, thank you.
Right.
And then I went to a yoga class one day with an instructor in our area. And it was just one of those moments in life where like you just feel fully inside your body and connected to yourself.
Hmm.
And it was such a healing moment for me. And I was like, I need more of this. And so I
Hmm.
started doing more yoga, going to more classes, and then reached a point where I was like, I feel like I want to teach yoga. So I did the 200-hour CRT instruction training and got my certification and started teaching classes. And it's just something that I find so much joy in, and it really pushes me out of my comfort zone. And I also feel like yoga can be very intimidating and feel like it's not accessible to everyone. Like
Hmm.
you have to have a certain type of body, or you have to be this like really calm personality to be someone who does yoga, and you don't have to. It's for every body, every
Hmm.
personality. So making it accessible to everyone, I just thought was really beautiful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and I think of like mindfulness when I hear you talking about being in touch with how your body feels in that moment and being present. And do you feel like it helped you in that area as well outside of yoga, like just being more mindful of your body and space?
Yeah, it really helped me. The breath work that you do in
Yeah.
yoga has been so incredibly helpful for me when I'm feeling like I'm in a stressful moment. And yeah, the mindfulness, being able to connect with your body for those of us that have had trauma in our life and are prone to dissociation,
Hmm.
um, being able to come back into my body and be fully present in my body can be really hard for me, especially in seasons of stress. And having those tools has been so helpful. And I like helping giving my kids those tools has been helpful. It's just, I feel like it's so invaluable.
Yeah. What are some of the tools that you've given your kids as far as yoga goes?
Breath work.
Okay.
I taught yoga kids classes for a while, and my kids have just done yoga with me because, that's what you get when you have a mom who's a yoga
Yeah.
instructor. But just like learning to sit and breathe and be present in your body and, just connect with yourself, I think is really
Hmm.
empowering. And so my kids still use some of the breath work tips that we did through practicing yoga together when they're in a
That's awesome.
stressful moment.
Hmm.
One day, my middle child, Willow, was feeling really frustrated, and I just cracked up because I just saw her go, okay,
Oh,
mom,
so
I'm
good.
ready.
Yeah, that's so good.
So it's
Yeah.
cool to see those little things that
Yeah.
just stick.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, okay. I love the conversation that we're having, but I
Yeah.
also don't want to keep going on and on and on for sake of time. So, is there anything that you would like to share with our listeners about parenting or trauma or adoption that you feel like we haven't touched on yet?
Oh my gosh, that's such a big
I
question.
know.
I think I would say if you're thinking about going into foster care, um, make sure that you are willing to work on yourself because,
Yeah.
like I said, it totally just shines a light on all of your insecurities, all of your past hurts.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of intentionality to not then push that back toward them and actually work through it. And so, and I think as a mom in general, like taking care of yourself is so incredibly important. Self care, like, because you can't pour from an empty cup. And
Yeah.
so, if you're not taking care of yourself, your body, in all of the ways, your soul, your spirit, your physical body, are
Hmm.
you sleeping? Are you drinking water? Are you taking care of your health? Are you doing what you need to do to be okay, because we're not giving our kids our best selves if we're not being our best selves. And
Yeah.
so it can feel really selfish. And I think we're told as parents so much, especially as moms, oh my gosh, I could go on about
Hmm.
this all day, that we're supposed to be selfless.
Hmm.
And that means you're like less yourself. You're giving up
Hmm.
yourself for the sake of your children. And when you do that, you're not actually being the mom that your kids need.
Yeah.
They need a mom that is okay and fully present and able to give them what they need. And that you can't be that if you're not taking care of yourself first. So,
Yeah.
allowing yourself to be selfish and care for your needs and ask for help when you need it is actually going to make you a better mom and be more better for your kids in the long run.
Yeah, I love that. Hey, one thing I thought about as you were talking is we didn't really touch on this when you decided you were going to seek out counseling. How did you do that? How did you find a counselor? And then when you decided the first one was not a love match, what, how do you keep looking? Like, what was that process for you?
Um, you know, I think a great way to find a counselor is to ask people that you trust. Like, hey, who do you know?
Yeah.
I didn't really have anyone to ask at the time.
Okay. Okay.
I Googled. I Googled a
Okay.
lot. I
Yeah.
read reviews. I read after the first counselor, because the first counselor was kind of a one-off of like, first one to pop up, my insurance covered it. I'm just going to
Okay.
go for it. And then I was like, I need to do more research. So when I
Okay.
looked for my second one, I read reviews, I read bios. I did a lot of digging into to see like, do I align with them? What kind of what do they specialize in? Do they
Hmm.
specialize in childhood trauma?
Yeah, that's
Really
important.
just trying to find one that would be able to help me. And
Yeah.
I lucked out and found a great one.
Yeah. Okay. That's helpful.
Yeah.
Okay. I have two final questions for you.
Yes.
Okay. The first one is, what do you wish people would ask about when it comes to trauma or foster care or adoption?
Oh, what do I wish they would ask about? Hmm. These are hard-hitting questions, Melissa Pemberton.
Okay. Yes. I'm doing my job right.
Um, I think I wish people would ask about I think it's really easy to look at foster care as like this amazing thing that you're doing for kids, which you are. But I
Hmm.
think you don't fully realize how incredibly hard it's going to be. So
Hmm.
I wish people would ask more in depth questions about what goes into it, what
Hmm.
should I expect, what are the things that people don't know, how, like, asking, like, how did it affect your family when you became a
Yeah.
foster parent? How did it
Yeah.
affect your bio kids?
Yeah.
How did it affect your marriage? Like, there are so many aspects that I think people don't really think about, and they
Yeah.
just kind of jump in blind. And I don't think there's any way to fully prepare yourself for the
No.
roller coaster that is foster care
No.
and adoption. There's no manual, but I think just not going into it with rose-colored glasses the rose-colored glasses of love cures all,
Yeah,
because it doesn't.
it doesn't.
And there's so much intentionality that's required. And so I wish that people would be more curious about what it will take for them and the best way to support the kids, as
Yeah.
opposed to, I'm just doing this really amazing thing, which is
Hmm. Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
But
It's deeper than that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Second question. What are three resources that you would recommend to our listeners to help them if they are just starting their journey of healing or in the midst of parenting?
yes, okay. This is a great one. The book, The Body Keeps the Score. I
Okay.
think you
Love
should
it.
read for yourself, for the
Hmm.
kids that you're going to have, the way that we hold trauma in our body and the way that that affects us. I think that that
Hmm.
book is really incredible. TBRI training, I cannot recommend enough
Okay.
for people who are looking into becoming foster or adoptive parents.
Yeah.
Even if you're adopting a baby straight from birth,
Yeah.
they're still going to have stuff.
Yeah.
And so knowing how to parent them in a way that is supportive, even for bio kids, I think it is just invaluable.
Yeah.
And then one more. Let me think. Um, Gosh, I think for your own self, and
Mhm.
your ability to just be your best self, anything by Brene Brown.
Oh, yes.
Um, I
Love
feel like
her.
we're best friends, even though
Yeah.
she doesn't know that I exist on this earth. Um,
Let's make that happen. Let's make that happen.
can we find her?
Brene.
I cannot recommend anything of hers enough. I
Yeah.
go back to her books in different seasons of my life, and I feel like I always get more goodness,
Yeah.
just for like being the kindest person to myself, having
Hmm.
empathy and understanding for others. Like, I just think that her books are so invaluable for your own personal growth.
Yeah. I love that. She's great.
She's amazing.
Is there one book that you would recommend over?
Oh, it's so hard.
Yeah.
Um, I love her book Rising Strong.
Okay.
I think about that one a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're all so good. I
I
don't know.
know. You can't lose,
You
right?
can't pick
Just
one up and
pick one
start
up and you'll
it.
win.
She has a smaller book. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head.
Oh,
But
I
I
know what
feel
you're
like
talking about. I
find
will,
it.
yes, and I will link it in
Yes.
the show notes because I know
Because
which one you're talking
that
about.
is a great one to start. Is it The
Yeah.
Gifts of Imperfection?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, yeah.
That's it.
That is a really good starter book with
Yep.
her, because it's just kind of a nice intro to who she is, and everything from there, it's all
Great.
amazing.
Yeah. Okay.
The
I will
best.
make sure that I link all of that in the show
Yeah.
notes so everybody can find all the things. So good.
She's amazing.
Yeah. Well, you're amazing, Cassie, and I appreciate you
Thanks.
sharing with us today. You're so wise, and I just feel so blessed to know you. So
Oh, same.
thank you. Okay. Well, have a super fabulous day. Stay warm.
I will, you too.
Okay. Thanks, Cassie.